Happy Pride, everyone! But is it so happy in a time where queer people are facing a rather sickening level of repression and societal pushback? I think it's only fitting that we look at one of the shows that may be, in part, somewhat responsible for why everybody hates us so much. I'm joking. Look, I know in the past I've faced some level of criticism for not fully embracing gay Love Island, aka For the Love of Daddies, as the truly empowering and revolutionary work of queer media that it is, but that all changes with this video. I am giving you my solemn homosexual vow that I will not be immediately dismissive of everything that happens in this episode. What's this? You're telling me that they had an immunity challenge with a fake ambulance, and then 3 seconds later one of the daddies got hospitalized and had to be evacuated with a real ambulance? Well, look, accidents happen. This is still a legitimate and not at all trashy show. Wait, what's this? I'm hearing that one of the daddies was making out with one of the himbos, then stopped, then started making out with a different himbo in front of that first himbo? And you're telling me there's a charcuterie board shaped like a male buttock?
We also got a charcuterie board shaped like an ass.
Alright. I gave it an honest attempt, but this is what I'm being presented with. Gay Love Island, aka For the Love of Daddies, I still can't say the actual name because YouTube censors it, is just a batshit insane show. I don't find it to be super great representation for the queer community. I don't really think it's that empowering, and frankly, as someone who does end up dating a lot of older guys, I find it a little bit upsetting. And by older guys, I mean, you know, men in their late 20s, but I kid. Look, making those very low effort jokes about how, haha, you're old, they work until they don't. Because eventually, you get old. Or, you know, maybe you accidentally wander into the beach that makes you old.
I wasn't old and now I'm old. I think it was because I went to the beach that makes you old.
But look, one thing I will say in defense of For the Love of Daddies, out of the 2 episodes I've seen, it is about 60% more unhinged than both of them combined, and on an unironic level, it does bring to the forefront a discourse about a lot of different issues in dating culture, and specifically with gay dating culture.
Let me ask, do you do that? Do you like your ass eaten?
Is the sky blue?
Editing Patrick, that is clearly not what I meant. Editing Patrick hates me, so in exchange, I'm gonna take extra long to film this video, and I'm gonna make him do something crazy. I'm gonna make him Photoshop my face on top of Stormy Daniels, the adult entertainer who is the host of this reality gay dating show. So let's celebrate Pride and let's break down For the Love of Daddies, episode 3. I have an important message for you guys. It's about today's sponsor, Adam and Eve. Listen, we're a sex-positive channel, and I am positive that some of you need a little bit more additional spice in your life. Adam and Eve is the US's largest adult products company, and they have been in business for over 50 years. They literally fought Ronald Reagan to sell you their products, and that's not even an exaggeration, that's just their company's history. And today, they are offering you 50% off one product plus free shipping to the United States and Canada. That is a deal so good, I'm literally gonna go purchase something after I'm done filming this. No, I won't tell, you'll just have to guess. With discreet shipping, 24/7 customer service, and a killer deal, this is the perfect time to check out Adam and Eve, whether or not you've never bought an adult product before, or you're wanting to try something new. Use my code PAT, or click the link down below in the description for 50% off one product plus free shipping to the United States and Canada. Again, that's code PAT, or the link down below in the description. Thanks to Adam and Eve for sponsoring. Now back to your regularly scheduled gay content. My name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Heart back by popular demand. For those of you who aren't caught up, you can always get Out TV, the obscure LGBTQ+ Canadian streaming service where this airs, which I definitely haven't accidentally been paying for the last 6 months, or you can watch my old videos on the first 2 episodes there or in the description. But we filmed this shit like a Marvel movie. You can really just jump right in at any point.
But here's a quick recap if you want the very basics nailed down for you in about 30-ish seconds. Timestamp right there if you want to skip it.
But don't skip it because we're gonna have fun. We're gonna make some jokes. This show has 2 groups of people. The himbos in their early to mid 20s and the daddies in their 40s and 50s.
These are their stories.
And just like an upscale gay bar in Provincetown, the daddies hold all the power. Because each week there's an elimination ceremony and every daddy gets to save one himbo from elimination. And in a very Survivor-esque twist, whichever couple is voted at the end of the show as the best couple will take home a $10,000 cash prize. What can I say? The average gay guy makes way more than the average straight guy. Frankly, the disparity would be even higher if I wasn't bringing down the average, but I guess they thought that gays needed a bigger motivator than just love. We needed 10 grand in cold hard cash, brought to you by Scruff, a gay dating app. And as of the start of this episode, here's a very brief rundown of all the couples in order from most strong to least strong. Victor and Danny, Fox and Jay, Robert and Samuel, and David's love triangle with Timmy and Steph. Nicholas, who's my friend's favorite daddy and maybe you should trust him because he's legally allowed to practice the law, he has no one. He's also the only one on the show who has a body that doesn't either suggest you spend 3 hours a day working out or you've forgotten what the concept of food is entirely. And I know I mentioned the show functions based on eliminations, but there won't be any eliminations in this episode because someone is going to the hospital, but we'll get to that. First things first, let's confront the love triangle, which will be, well, maybe not the central conflict of this episode, but certainly the most interesting. It just would feel weird saying that the whole hospitalization thing isn't the central conflict of the episode, and since the himbos have no real concept of mortality, they essentially give him an on-air funeral and talk about him like he died, even though he is apparently fine. David is flirting with 2 different men, something that is very commonplace if you go to any gay club, but for some reason in Gay Love Island it is considered tantamount to a mortal sin.
If David is gonna fuck around and himbo hop, then I am gonna weigh my options out and reclaim my power.
So dear viewer, this is a sign for you. You need to include the phrase himbo hopping into your vocabulary, and you need to have done it yesterday. It's Pride Month. You really should get on that. I personally plan on starting to use it when I'm going on dates with 2 guys in any given week. I'm himbo hopping between emotionally unavailable men, one of whom had an adult grassy chocolate bar with 5 milligrams of something in it, you know what I'm talking about, before our date, which was at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. We were getting coffee. It's a very odd time not to be sober, in my personal opinion. In some senses, this video is a lot less about me just watching Gay Love Island, but it's also about me finding a cost-effective substitute for therapy where an audience can laugh at my misfortune. And in some senses, really, Gay Love Island is a form of therapy because you can watch it and remind yourself, it's not that bad. Just as there is misery all around the world, there is certainly misery in Daddy Mansion. And Samuel and Timmy are kind enough to fill us in on said misery.
Things sort of got mixed up a little bit, and Timmy and I decided that we wanted to discuss what was happening with our daddies.
Look, I know I've said the word daddy approximately 8 times since we started this video. It's really starting to roll off my tongue with frightening ease, but I want you all, and I want me, to not lose sight about how odd this entire endeavor is. Shit, I said I was gonna be encouraging because it's Pride Month. Okay, it's actually normal to be 21 years old and talking about your daddy's ass.
How was my daddy's ass?
Oh, he's your daddy.
Yeah.
Anyways, in the first 2 episodes, Timmy and David, they have the hots for each other and they're more or less hitting it off. It feels very reciprocal. Until a hot new bombshell entered Daddy Mansion and seemingly stole David's heart. And also his tongue.
I definitely felt a spark when our lips touched.
We learned that last night he was making out with Timmy, and then 5 minutes later, he was immediately making out with Steph in front of Timmy.
Kissing him, cuddling him. If you want Steph, take Steph. If you want me, take me, because at this point, it's becoming a fucking turn off.
Jesus Christ, that is brutal. It reminds me a little bit about how that guy on Spanish Temptation Island was shown video footage of his girlfriend or wife cheating on him. See, that man has a real, loud, and active pain. But what about the quiet pain of having to sit there with your hands in your lap on a bed watching your crush make out with somebody else because they're new in town? I'd argue both represent a kind of unique suffering that can really only be made possible by the wonders of reality television. And if things couldn't get any worse, we are shown a clip that really implies that the in-universe narrator entitled Dr. Daddy spies on them when they're getting changed.
I usually only use this camera to watch them change, but I guess we can use it for narrative context just this once.
So I have a question. Is it acceptable for me to call the actions of a non-corporeal anglophone narrator voice problematic? Because that's what they are. Suffice it to say, David's actions have stirred up some drama amongst the himbos who would prefer more monogamous courtships.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, we're luxury purses. We're not those knockoffs from Canal Street and stuff, so...
Whether you're an original from Italy or a knockoff from New York, in both cases you're still a handbag, and in either event, you're still getting used. But David's actions also provoke the ire of Nicholas, who decides to confront him over his reckless smooching.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. After I seen what happened last night in our bedroom, it made me feel really bad.
And yeah, Nicholas, I guess I agree. It is bad form to be macking with multiple men, even if you personally aren't paying that much attention because you're on your phone. Apparently, this is one of the very few reality TV shows that allows them to use their phone, but whatever. Still, this reeks to me as a little bit of jealousy on Nicholas's part. Perhaps him lashing out because he's really in the wilderness without a prom date. Metaphorically, of course, because there is no prom. Closest we got is a gay frat party in episode 1, but actually, since I brought up the subject of the wilderness, they are filming this basically in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Canada, which is just a fact I find somewhat charming. Nicholas then boldly proclaims he's gonna start gunning for Timmy, and later in the episode they do form a bit of a partnership. I'm sure it portends great things for their relationship when the entire basis for its creation was, hey, our first choices got with someone else, and we have no one else, so let's shack up together. This is why, on principle, I'll never get back with an ex. And I really need this rule, because if I didn't have this rule, I probably would, and then I'd be one of those people in your friend group. You know the type. I don't know, he just likes me like no one else does. Like, I have to give him a second chance. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to either get some more self-respect or you need to get thee to a nunnery. There's no possible segue I can have after quoting Shakespeare. A new daddy is entering the villa, and he is a returning contestant from season 1, Daddy Tony. There's always the like button down there if you want me to watch some of season 1 of this show. But what the show tells us is that he had to break up with his partner live at the For the Love of Daddies reunion episode.
You said that you came into this looking for a real genuine connection. Do you think you found that?
No, actually.
Again, let's be thankful for Gay Love Island, right? Dear viewer, I'm sure you've experienced some heartbreak in your life. Maybe I'm projecting, but at least we can both hopefully mutually agree that we have never been broken up with live at the Gay Love Island reunion special, which looks like it was just filmed in Stormy Daniels' living room.
The minute I open up to someone, they kind of back out on me.
Also, I'm gonna make a comment, and I know a similar comment got me into some hot water in the Poly family video, but I don't care, because this is the truth. If you are in your 40s, and you are trying to date men in their early to mid-20s, no shit they're gonna be emotionally immature. He's at the age where he still kind of looks like his high school senior photo, and you're at the age where if your 401k is not in a good spot, you're probably fucked. If you're in a happy age gap relationship, I am happy for you, and I would recommend you never bring it up on Twitter unless you want hundreds of angry comments and to be the subject of a thought piece in the Atlantic. I give you my promise I will not personally make fun of you unless you go on Gay Love Island and start complaining about how nobody ever wants to be with you after you start opening up, and you're talking about men who graduated college 3 years ago, whereas you are in your 40s. Age gap relationships can work, and everybody is equally deserving of love, regardless of how old they are, but can an age gap relationship work in the context of the show? I am pretty skeptical. Tony, though, for his part, isn't exactly mired in the past. Instead, he is mired in the present, and more or less immediately steals Jay from Fox in roughly 2 minutes of screen time.
Looking at this board, though, that's shaped like a booty.
Yes.
Let me ask, do you do that? Do you like your ass eaten?
You can mock that line all you want, but it worked.
Well, he has been known to do a lot of charity work, so
2 hours later.
By the end of the episode, Tony has firmly supplanted Fox as Jay's daddy. That word really should not be used outside of the bedroom, or unless you are from the American South and you are referring to your literal father. Me and my daddy are gonna go out and play some catch. Then we're gonna go shoot some guns. Then we're gonna go to a little place called Gettysburg. David tries to have a conversation with Timmy to assuage his concerns about his love for Steph. The conversation does not go well.
How much has your night been? I haven't seen you all day. Yeah, my night was fun.
That's Timmy describing a night where he literally saw this man who's standing across from him making out with somebody else right in front of him, by the way. Oh my god, my night was awesome! Thanks so much for asking, kid. And I know you didn't ask, dear viewer, but I want to inform you anyway. This show uses the Kitchen Nightmares water phone sound effect constantly.
Eating ass and good things like that. Lips, they were nice. And I'm feeling that.
It just doesn't really fit at all, and it's very glaringly out of place. Like, it's very much giving my amateur productions of Survivor episodes where I would put this beautiful tropical soundtrack over grainy footage I filmed outside my industrial apartment.
I am afraid of doing anything physically strenuous, so...
But speaking of Survivor, David is now claiming that he would have saved Timmy in last week's daddy elimination ceremony if Justin had not walked out and the ceremony was canceled. And I don't know if there's a more technical term for it than daddy elimination ceremony, but if there isn't, there really should be. I'm thinking, like, how about this? Tribal council. Okay, yeah, the boos are justified. You couldn't even really hear which word I was using. See you next Tuesday. The boos are entirely justified. You are heard and you are respected. Anyways, David was almost certainly lying about that in that conversation, and they close it out with one of the most awkward hugs I've seen on reality television in a hot minute. For those interested in the audience, if you've never hugged anyone before and you wanted a few tips, here's a tip. Both people should come out of the hug looking constipated and sad. That's how you know you've done a great job. Just wanted to give you a quick hug tip, and I'll even give you another one. Hug tip number 2. Most people don't appreciate any tip in their hugs.
Larry, you're disgusting.
But enough of the gays being petty, it's time for today's immunity challenge.
You'll have to paddle across and pick up your himbo. The first person back with their himbo to the gurney to give them mouth to mouth is the winner.
So, a lot to unpack there, but first things first, I love how they're making the himbos perform like a video game NPC idol animation while they're wearing their Speedos. Presumably that's for the benefit of the daddies, give them some motivation, but I don't know. Out TV has had some lurid program offerings throughout their history, so it might be intended for your own viewing pleasure. Okay, back to being more supportive. It's Pride Month. Slay.
And Timmy invited Samuel into the hot tub for a mimosa, because Timmy thinks vitamin C stands for champagne.
My issue isn't, oh, they need to be more modest. My issue is that, regardless of whether or not you think that's true, it's very demeaning for the younger men. I'll save you from a lengthy thought piece in case y'all want me to cover more of this show for the channel, but gay culture is fundamentally warped in this sense. It's so normalized for younger gay men to go after comparatively older gay men who are 15 to 20 years older than them. Sexually, sure, but also in the context of forming relationships with less than ideal power structures, to put a generous coat of paint on those words. Sure, at a certain point we're all adults and we're responsible for our own decisions, but me personally, I don't really care to glamorize a 21-year-old making out with somebody who is twice his age. And I certainly wouldn't want to create this narrative such that these younger men are literally dancing in their Speedos to be rescued by an older gentleman who they keep unironically calling their daddy. Okay, right. Well, enough waxing poetic on gay culture, it's time to get to the challenge, which ironically features an ambulance, and we see a daddy, Robert, fall and need a real ambulance within 3 seconds of the challenge starting. Well, as Nicholas put it, this was a rather rigorous challenge.
This challenge is so insane. It's literally like we're gonna be doing a triathlon.
No, Nicholas, it's literally not like a triathlon. You just need to kayak to point A and kayak back. That's pretty much it. But okay, it's probably in bad taste for me to be talking about how easy this competition was after one of our older contestants literally had a fall and had to go to the real hospital. Oh wait, that's literally what one of the himbos does immediately after it happens.
He is one of the more strong and athletic daddies, so it's surprising that he would be the one to like go through this.
Talk about an insult to literal injury. Imagine you get hospitalized after immediately face planting on a competition during Gay Love Island, and mind you, this is the television show that Robert is using to actually come out to his family, and meanwhile, you're in the hospital, a bunch of twinks are talking about you like you just died.
I think we both came into this house from the same standpoint. You know, we both started in the house together, and we really got to talk about family dynamic and his coming out, like his ex-wife, he has a daughter, and
the only thing these flashbacks are missing is a black and white filter and whatever amount of Sarah McLachlan music the copyright filters on YouTube will let me put in the video.
I will remember you.
But the show says he's fine at the end of the episode, guys. Come on, he might even be back for episode 4. But if we can't make fun of the fact that in this dating show where a bunch of younger men are dating older men, like one of the older men literally falls down in a competition, I mean, if we can't make fun of that, where are we at as a society, really? If in 40-ish years I'm on the Golden Gay Bachelor and I have a hilarious tumble, you not only have my permission to make fun of me, but you have my permission to turn it into a widely used reaction gif. I'm really hoping that I'm getting aroused tonight. Whoa. It's time to talk about the last part of the episode, which brings up a rather interesting theme as it relates to queer dating and to queer dating shows. Monogamy. Or, well, rather it's the same issue that we've been dealing with earlier in the episode as well, but now David is shaming Victor for himbo hopping as well.
I couldn't wait to read the poem to him tonight.
Was that the poem you originally meant for Timmy? Did you just recycled it for Danny, or is this a new one?
And sure, in episode 1, Victor did have a crush on Timmy instantly, but by the end of the episode, he was already with Danny, so I'm not sure that the situations are exactly comparable to taking turns making out with them in the bed in front of each other, but still, this eventually comes to a head when Danny and Victor choose to confront David and Steph about David's behavior. And I'd like to do a very close analysis of this scene. We're gonna basically go line by line because I find it academically helpful and you will probably find it funny and absurd. Danny begins the conversation with a veiled generalization that they feel some guys in the house are a little confused with their loyalties before directly getting into a criticism of David's conduct since David and Timmy were very close just yesterday.
And now all of a sudden this new guy comes in and your tongue's down each other's tonsils.
Like most reality TV confrontations, this is obviously not done in good faith. Danny could have instead just said the word kiss, but they wanted to conjure up a more lurid image, a description that will bring to mind, and I hate to bring this up, but bring to mind anteaters or dementors. And I don't really hate to bring up anteaters. I don't have anything against anteaters, and I don't really even have anything against dementors besides the fact that their creator is a bigot and a virulent transphobe. But from the outset of this conversation, David's actions, and to an extent his sexuality, are framed in a very negative light. And this is going to be how the rest of the conversation is kind of structured around. It's kind of structured around this fundamental assumption that being outwardly promiscuous is a moral failing. Danny then escalates, fully implying David's been doing the dance with no pants with multiple himbos.
And it just seems every day you're in a new himbo's pants, and so I wonder if this wouldn't be the time to kind of maybe take things more slow and get to know this new himbo before you just invite him to your bed.
I can't really confirm or deny the veracity of that statement other than my assumption that if what Danny was saying was true, the narrator would have almost certainly made fun of whoever was having sex. Timmy's probably used to getting D's on his report card, but what about a D in his bottom? I'm so sorry, Timmy, if you're out there, even if you're watching, because one of the cast members of the show did DM me. I believe I responded, but my apology, it's going out to you, wherever you are. David finds the situation ridiculous and makes sure to defame Danny by referring to their obvious himbo social caste.
I'm sorry, I don't really think talking to two himbos and just kissing them, I don't really think it warranted a response like that, but you know, he is a himbo.
Come to think of it, For the Love of Daddies is really just a streamlined version of feudalism. No, I won't be elaborating. But that's to be expected. The show, in its very structure, obviously the power structure, the daddies are choosing the people who are getting eliminated, not the other way around. But even beyond that, in terms of what's actually being said about the himbos by other people, and honestly, in some cases, what the himbos are saying themselves, it doesn't really paint any of them in a particularly positive, empowered light.
I'll let you grab the sushi because I have no clue how to use chopsticks.
No clue how to use chopsticks. So you're telling me you probably in Los Angeles, you don't ever get sushi? You work for Paris Hilton? Maybe she lives in New York. I don't know. Either way, it's not really justifiable. And you don't know how to use chopsticks? Danny further expresses their frustrations that the daddies are playing games before David defends his actions.
We're here to hopefully find love in a partner, and sometimes you need to explore those things and get to know people deeper. And I'm sorry, that's not something that is always achievable within 24 hours.
This is honestly a pretty reasonable perspective. If marriage functioned with the touch rule of chess, you touch a piece, you have to be committed to moving it, I think 95% of people would be miserable, and I would be married to somebody who played Lord Farquaad in a stage production of Shrek. I don't want that. I don't want to think about that ever again, but I just did. And hopefully you're laughing at it.
I know one thing's for sure, and that's that making out and sticking your tongue in someone else's throat does not make a relationship.
Well, see, no, Danny, but for a lot of people, kissing and physical compatibility is an important component of a relationship. Some people like to test drive their cars before buying them, which is why most Americans have correctly eschewed the whole no sex before marriage rule because it's kind of insane. Steph then adds, if anything, he actually likes that David is trying to mix it up with different people because that means if he returns to Steph, he'll really like him.
I actually prefer him to go out and seek other people.
And I'm sorry, but that is cope. That is straight up cope. Copium for the masses. Look, I like online dating and I do appreciate how it does allow me to explore my options, but that doesn't mean I relish it at all, and I don't love that that's what every other guy is also doing. I accept it as a necessity of trying to date in 2025, but I don't assign it any positive moral value because that would be crazy.
Because you guys haven't kissed, you guys have, and I'm not saying that you guys have to make your move or go home.
It is admittedly very funny to be like, oh, you guys definitely don't have to kiss, and then in the confessional be like, these guys are so lame for not kissing. You know, absurd stuff. 10 out of 10, no notes. But this brings Victor into the conversation.
Okay, so I was going to keep it cute, but now I'm not.
And he lives up to his word. He really does not keep it cute.
If you feel like you can kiss 4 or 5 guys in a house that you just entered, that's cool, but it's the equivalent of sticking your tongue on the floor of a train in New York.
Well, now, Victor, let's not shame people who kiss 4 or 5 guys at a time. I mean, maybe they're just trying to have a little fun. Maybe they're just trying to find and assess compatibility. Like, let's maybe not be so harsh. Also, it's as gross as putting your tongue on the floor of the subway. Like, I know you're from Los Angeles, where they don't know what walking is. They haven't invented it yet, so everyone just drives everywhere. But the subway, it is not super clean. But it is definitely cleaner than the hopefully brushed and flossed mouths of 4 to 5 men. Danny calls Steph out for only having a physical connection with David, and Steph's like, why haven't you guys kissed? And then Victor's like, actually, like, I really want to kiss you, Danny, but, like, I'm just respectfully waiting. And Danny's like, bet. Like, okay. So maybe Victor is the only one buying into the 19th and 20th century puritanical standards. No kissing before marriage. That's what it says in the Bible. I swear to God, if anyone comments I mispronounced Bible, I know how it's pronounced. It's fun to say Bible. Okay, try it. But David ultimately pushes back, and he says that Danny and Victor, y'all have no idea about the nuances and the nature of my relationship. And I'd say he was justified for responding in this way and really shouldn't be being criticized at all, but I don't have amnesia, and I remember just a few minutes ago when he was criticizing the nature of Victor's partnership with Danny. But then again, also Danny brought this whole thing up, so this argument is so stupid. It's one of the only arguments where I've actively wanted both people on both sides to somehow lose. So what can we take away from this scene and this episode as a whole? Well, I would say that this dialogue in particular represents a factional divide for different gay attitudes as they relate to romance. Maybe this is true for straight people too, but as the idiom goes, never wallow around in the mud with a pig, because you'll get dirty and the pig will like it. No hetero. No hetero. This is one of the moments where the show does, in my opinion, genuinely touch on something bigger and something that is a more accurate reflection of gay culture in this current moment. But it did it in such a way where everyone involved in that entire conversation was so annoying. Which is almost impressive to have 4 people arguing over something and you don't really care for a single one of them. We've got Steph saying, "It's okay, David, date as many people as you want. Date everybody here because I'll be waiting back for you when you're done," which is horrifying. And then on the other hand, we've got Victor saying, "If you so much as kiss more than 2 guys, you need to be cast in a modern day version of the Scarlet Letter. Easier A." You know, like easy A, but easier because we're going to be talking about a gay couple. They both say rather insulting things to each other about the nature of their relationship, and buried in that argument is an underlying assumption that there is a correct way to express love to another person in the context of a relationship. And I guess definitionally, there is a correct way to have a relationship, because at the end of this show, there's going to be a final vote and somebody is going to be picked to be the best couple, a dubious accolade that reminds me of voting for prom king and prom queen, a process that essentially boiled down to how popular you were. But it stands to reason that one of these couples theoretically could walk away with the grand prize, and therefore their philosophy on how to approach a relationship, not just in a dating show, but in real life more broadly, could be validated. But that's gonna do it for me, guys. Please like, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment. Let me know down below what you think. What about the divide that we're sort of been talking about throughout this entire episode? Should people be monogamous on a gay dating show? Is that a reasonable request? Do you want to see me cover more of this show? And do you have any other things you would like to see me tackle this Pride? But as always, my name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat. I hope you have an amazing Pride month, and I'll see you for the next video.